Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making some easy and delicious blondies. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350 so it's nice and hot, and now in a medium bowl, we're gonna combine the dry ingredients, starting with the all-purpose flour. Specifically, 1 3/4 cups or 210 grams. And today I am, of course, using a scale so I get really accurate results. If you ever followed a recipe to the T, but like your dessert was dry and bready, you probably added too much flour, and that probably happened because you scooped it up. Never do that. Use a scale or sprinkle the flour into your measuring cup and level it off. If you scoop, it compacts the flour and you use too much. To puff things up, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and a full teaspoon of baking powder. Blondies, of course, have white chocolate, and white chocolate is very sweet, so you need some contrast to bring this back down to earth. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt will do the trick. I like using a nice sea salt. If you're using super fine salt, I would go down to 1/2 teaspoon. And if your salt is on the coarser side, you might even want a full teaspoon. The bigger the crystal, the more space in between, and the less salt you actually get per teaspoon. Now you want to grab a whisk. Our scale is done. And we're gonna give this a mix to combine everything really well. You can mix your heart out right now, but as soon as we combine the wet and the dry, you can only mix until things are just combined. Otherwise, you'll activate the protein in the flour, and that's gonna give you a gummy blondie. Nobody wants a gummy blondie. It should have a beautiful light texture. All mixed up, we can set this aside and now grab a big bowl for the wet ingredients. Into my large bowl, I'm adding 1 cup or 220 grams of light brown sugar. The reason we're using this as opposed to granulated sugar is it gives you a lovely note of caramel from the molasses in the sugar. 1 cup or 220 grams. And it's fitting that we're using light brown sugar because blondies were originally called molasses brownies. They had actual molasses in them with granulated sugar, and the name changed to blondies later on. To my brown sugar, I'm adding 1/2 cup or 113 grams of melted unsalted butter. By the way, if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new recipes every single week. You could totally use salted butter in this recipe if that's all you have on hand. Just make sure you're adding less salt. I would only add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt if your butter is salted. Mix this up. Give us a little whisk. It looks so good already. You can see that just with a few seconds of whisking, it lightens and turns into almost a frosting. Lovely. Now we're gonna add 1 large room temperature egg. Aside from the molasses and the brown sugar, our blondies will get their flavor from 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now we're gonna whisk vigorously, and of course, if you wanted to, you could use an electric hand mixer for this. Oh my gosh, the smell is so nice. Brown sugar and vanilla go hand in hand. My wet mixture is done, my dry mixture is done, but there are 3 components to this blondie, and one of them is the Mixins. Most popularly, you would use white chocolate chips. Has a lovely flavor, but you could use regular chocolate chips if that's all you have on hand or what you prefer. You could also use up to 1/2 cup of chopped nuts. I think that walnuts go really well on this and add some nice texture, but pecans or pistachios will be really nice as well. Because I'm using 1/2 cup of walnuts, I'm gonna decrease the chocolate chips, 1/2 cup of each, or you could go up to 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. Give these guys a rough chop. And I'm gonna reduce the white chocolate chips. Instead of 1 cup, I'll use like 3/4 of a cup. If you have too many mix-ins, your batter will be weighed down and it won't puff up and be a bit too dense. It's time to add the dry to the wet, and you're gonna use your spatula to fold this in gently. You're gonna mix until it's almost combined, meaning you'll still see a bunch of streaks of flour. Just scrape the bowl down as you mix. By the way, these blondies will keep for 3 days at room temperature. Just make sure they're in a sealed container, or up to a week in the fridge. You could also have the individual pieces frozen and thaw them overnight so they're ready to use. Anything butter-based should always be warmed up when you enjoy it, so I would microwave these just at like half power for 15 seconds to wake them back up. Today I'm using 2 mix-ins, the walnuts and the white chocolate, and I'm gonna reserve like less than a handful of each for the top. So still have some walnuts left over, reserving a half handful of my white chocolate chips. And these, of course, will go on top at the very end. Fold the batter together, and as everything gets distributed, the mixing will be complete. You'll see all the flour disappear. I'm actually gonna add all the walnuts in. I don't think they'll be as pretty on top as the white chocolate chips, so those can be a surprise. My batter's ready, so now it's time to grab an 8x8-inch pan, and whenever I have a square or rectangular dessert, I always have a parchment cradle. It's a piece of parchment paper that fits over 2 sides and the bottom, and it lets you lift the dessert out really easily. I'll also point out that I'm using a metal pan today. If you use a glass container, it heats up differently and you'll have dry edges and an underbaked center. So metal is the way to go. Grease your pan with butter or baking spray. Add your parchment paper. And now we can transfer our batter. Grab an offset spatula and give your batter a nice smooth so it bakes beautifully. And now you can top with your reserved white chocolate chips. Our blondies are ready to bake 350 for 32 to 36 minutes or until the edges are set and a skewer inserted in the center comes out clean. Just like a regular brownie, these blondies should be gooey, so try not to overbake them. The middle can be like a little bit underbaked. It'll have that nice fudgy texture to it. In you go. Allow your blondies to cool completely in the pan, give them a slice, and just like that, they're ready to enjoy. Chewy, gooey, crunchy, salty, and sweet all at the same time. It's an easy, delicious dessert I hope you get a chance to make. If you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my dessert bar playlist.